All right, everybody. So, you know how whenever we... How do I start this? Actually, here's a better question. Have any of you ever debated a hardcore Zionist? I've argued with a couple, not on stream, but, you know, just sort of in real life and in, like, off-stream settings. And every time I've seen a debate with a hardcore Zionist, or even been part of one, I've noticed a running trend. Notably that it always tends to get locked in the weeds of some pedantic, semantic, unimportant definitional debate. Do you know what I mean? Usually it'll be over it'll go something like this. An advocate for Gaza will correctly state that Israel is committing a genocide or is an apartheid state. The Zionist will say, where are you getting that from? How can you say that? It's a response to a military action by Hamas. How can you say that? How can you say it's an apartheid state? Point to any reputable institutions that claim this, right? And you typically get lost in the weeds arguing over what is genocide, what is apartheid, what is colonialism, what you could go down the list, right? What is a war crime, right? Which is why for a while now, I've encouraged people to avoid that line of argumentation and not even bother trying to ascribe labels to what Israel has done. I've argued that it's far better to simply explain bit by bit the acts that Israel has committed, the crimes that Israel has committed, ones that are undeniable, fully backed up. Hell, there's insurmountable evidence of these crimes' existence. So just force them to engage with, like, the terror of what Israel, or I should say the IDF, has done to the Palestinian people. That is until about a week ago, when things started to change. You see, the world of international politics doesn't exactly move at lightning speed, which is why, despite it having been almost a year now since the extreme ramp up in hostilities between Hamas and Israel, which has led to countless civilian deaths and the encroachment further of the IDF and Israel onto Palestinian land, we have seen some things turn around. The international community is beginning to react, and in a way that's really, I think, taken the wind out of Zionist sails. Hear me out here. The World Court 10 days ago ruled that Israel's presence in Palestinian territories is simply illegal. And this is not the first story that we're going over here. This is actually kind of a three-part story. We're going to be talking about the ICJ, the World Court, then the ICJ, and then the Olympics, because that's sort of the most current part of this story that's being talked about is Israel at the Olympics, which is, of course, coming up soon. But for now, let's see what the World Court's ruling on Israel was like. Let's watch.
In favor. President Salam, Judges Tamka, Abraham, Yusuf, Shway, Bandari, Iwasawa, Nolte, Chargeworth, Brand, Gomez Robledo, Cleveland, Oresco, Tladi. Against, Vice President Sebutinde. By 11 votes to 4, is of the opinion that the State of Israel's continued presence in the occupied territory is unlawful.
Damn, 11 to 4. Determining that the occupation of Palestinian land by Israel is unlawful. Ooh. Ooh. If I misheard you, but the Olympics are... Oh, they're happening right now, yeah. So I don't follow the Olympics super closely. I don't know when they start or when they end. I just know that, like, it's current news. So I guess it's currently happening. Good timing on my part if we get that segment about it out. You know, it'll probably be pretty relevant if the Olympics are currently happening.
Favor President Salam, Judges Yusuf, Shway, Bandari, Iwasawa, Nolte, Chargeworth, Brand, Gomez Robledo, Cleveland, Tladi. Against, Vice President Sebutinde, Judges Tamka, Abraham, Uresco. By 11 votes to 4, is of the opinion that the state of Israel is under an obligation to bring to an end its unlawful presence in the occupied Palestinian territory as rapidly as possible.
See, he lists all the different judges and whatnot here, but like, this is now a determination that Israel should be compelled morally to end the hostilities and violence and pull themselves from the Palestinian territory they are occupying. So it's not just that what they're doing is illegal, but that they should stop, which you think would be implied, but you know.
In favor, President Salam, Judges Yusuf, Shway, Bandari, Iwasawa, Nolte, Chargeworth, Brandt, Gomez Robledo, Cleveland, Tlati. Against, Vice President Sebutinde, Judges Tomka, Abraham, Uresco. By 14 votes to 1, is of the opinion that the state of Israel is under an obligation to cease immediately all new settlement activities and to evacuate all settlers from the occupied Palestinian territory.
Yeah, the settlement building stuff is some of the most, like, even like Zionist sympathetic people couldn't defend that shit because it's just bald-faced, like, annexation of territory. You know, like, there's just about a bunch of Palestinians chilling on their land, and then it gets annexed with state support from Israel, right? So it's no one could really defend it because it's not an act in response to anything, right? Like so many Zionist defense players were able to say, well, it was a response to Hamas, right? You know, they bombed those kids and Hamas was using them as human shields, you know? It's like, well, sure, but like, how are you going to make excuses for all the other shit that Israel does then? Because like Israel does shit to the Palestinians all the time with no perceptible reason, like no excuse, right? Like the settlement building, there's no excuse for it. It's just we're taking this land now because we think it belongs to us.
In favor, President Salam, Judges Tomka, Abraham, Yusuf, Shway, Bandari, Iwasawa, Nolte, Chargeworth, Brandt, Gomez Robledo, Cleveland, Uresco, Tlati. Against, Vice President Sebutinde. By 14 votes to 1, is of the opinion that the state of Israel has the obligation to make reparation for the damage caused to all natural or legal persons concerned in the occupied Palestinian territory.
Damn, 14-1 agreement that Israel is obligated to help rebuild Palestine. That's crazy.
In favor,
that goes hard.
President Salam, Judges Tomka, Abraham, Yusuf, Shway.
I mean, these aren't really rules that, like, Israel can be, like, bent over the knee and whooped over breaking necessarily, but this is a very well-reputable, organization of national representatives and whatnot. So this indicates a very strong pressure in the international community on Israel, which is really what matters in the grand scheme of things as to whether or not Israel continues to be able to do what they're doing. And on top of that, this provides even more reason for public support of Israel to plummet, right? And plummeting public support for Israel is how we get American politicians to stop simping for Israel, right? Like, obviously AIPAC is still going to be there and using its money to, like, scare the shit out of Democrat politicians who dare not to be Zionists, but eventually it's not really going to matter if the American people, like, know that it's an AIPAC-sponsored ad that's running on their TV against the local Democratic nominee, right? For those who don't know, this election, AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, plans to spend, I believe it's like over $100 million or hundreds of millions of dollars on attack ads on the Squad. Some of them have already secured their seats, so we're good, but I think others have not. So I am a little worried about some members of the Squad in the coming months, for sure.
Bandari, Iwasawa, Nolte, Chargeworth, Brandt, Gomez Robledo, Cleveland, Uresco, Tlati. Against, Vice President Sebutinde. By 12 votes to 3, is of the opinion that all states are under an obligation not to recognize as legal the situation arising from the unlawful presence of the State of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory, and not to render aid or assistance in maintaining the situation created by the continued...
They're putting pressure on nations like America, who provide support to Israel as well here.
...presence of the State of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory. In favor, President Salam, Judges Tomka, Yusuf, Shway, Bandari, Iwasawa, Nolte, Chargeworth, Brandt, Gomez Robledo, Cleveland, Tlati. Against, Vice President Sebutinde, Judges Abraham Uresco. By 12 votes to 3, is of the opinion that international organizations, including the United Nations, are under an obligation not to recognize as legal the situation arising from the unlawful presence of the State of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory. In favor, President Salam, Judges.
Basically, this is like a unanimous ruling against Israel by the sounds of it. Like, we've yet to see, like, this is just, well, that's the problem, Lucky Otter. Israel isn't getting the South Africa treatment. It's not. They're doing apartheid. It's like the national community, the international community now agrees with it. So it's like, what's the holdup now? You can't really argue it's not apartheid. You can't really argue it's not equivalent to South Africa anymore. Like, no one can claim that. These are the same institutions that deemed South Africa what it was back in the day, which is an apartheid state of racism and inequality. And it still is today. Not an apartheid state, but a state of extreme inequality and racial discrimination. But it's far better than it was. But even still, the fact that Israel's getting special treatment compared to South Africa, like apartheid South Africa, notably the Olympic Committee is giving them preferential treatment. Pretty cringe, bro. Pretty cringe.
Yusuf, Shway, Bandari, Iwasawa, Nolte, Chargeworth, Brandt, Gomez Robledo, Cleveland, Tlati. Against, Vice President Sebutinde, Judges Abraham Uresco. By 12 votes to 3, is of the opinion that the United Nations, and especially the General Assembly, which requested this opinion, and the Security Council should consider the precise modalities and further action required to bring to an end as rapidly as possible the unlawful presence of the State of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory. In favor, President Salam, Judges Tomka, Yusuf, Shway, Bandari, Iwasawa, Nolte.
So it's basically the judges demanding this of all of the Israeli representatives that are there at this hearing of sorts.
Chargeworth, Brandt, Gomez Robledo, Cleveland, Tlati. Against, Vice President Sebutinde, Judges Abraham Uresco. I shall now call upon the registrar to read the operative part of the opinion in French.
So now it's going to be in French. So we don't need to watch the same thing in French though. So that was the World Court's ruling that what Israel is doing pretty much across the board, it's illegal, and they are obligated to stop, not only to stop, but to move themselves out of occupied Palestinian land. And on top of that, they are obligated to help Palestine and Palestinians rebuild. Like, Gaza needs to be rebuilt. The damage done to, like, people's lives in the West Bank. Even the occupied territories that are literal apartheid within what are now considered Israeli borders that Palestinians live as second-class citizens in. Gaza deserves to be rebuilt. Yes, it does. They should make it like super high-tech. You know what I mean? Like, they rebuild it and it looks like Solution 9 from FF14. You know? It's like super neon. It looks like Night City. They should just rebuild Gaza and make it Night City, but not awful, obviously. Just make it like super high tech neon, like just like night and day difference. Why not? You know, let's just go crazy. Let's make the world's first real cyberpunk city. Let's just have it be Gaza. You know, the remaining Palestinians are owed that. Okay. They get to have their Solution 9 city. Or like what South Korea did, they had a really big push into modern tech or something, if I recall correctly. No, I'm not. I'm being mostly joking here, but I'm also serious that, like, yeah, I do think that any aid provided by Israel should be overwhelming, and that the quality of life that the Gazans were used to should be improved. Like, the quality of life for the average person in Gaza was not high before October 7th, okay? Like, and what happened after. It needs to be built back better, ironically. And that's not it. We've also got the ICJ's opinion declaring that Israel's occupation of Palestinian territories was unlawful and is a historic vindication of Palestinians' rights. Amnesty.org put out this article as well about the ICJ's ruling, and it's pretty much exactly the same. Like, we're just seeing a pretty unanimous international heightening of pressure on Israel for what it's doing. And despite all of that, despite how blatantly reparations, little reparations, Lucky Otter. Despite how obvious it is that Israel is just like in the wrong in this here, we're seeing favoritism from the Olympic Committee in the wake of this. Where, like, usually, if you are an athlete from a nation that's currently doing some horrific stuff that the Olympic Committee would likely not endorse, you are still able to compete, but you can't compete under your nation's flag. Right? They're not like no athletes are losing their opportunities at stardom or a gold medal, right? It's just you are not allowed to represent your nation's genocidal regime at the Olympics because that goes against the spirit of the Olympics. They did this with apartheid South Africa, and it's something I doubt anybody here or anywhere disagrees with. For some reason, though, Olympians from Israel are still going to be allowed to represent Israel at the Olympics. Which, of course, has led to something I don't really agree with, but it kind of shows how far things have gone and how unhappy people are with this. Death threats arise against Israeli Olympic athletes investigated by the French police. So it's escalated to the point where some of the Olympic athletes from Israel are getting death threats. And obviously there's some pretty serious protest as well. It's nothing violent, nothing like crazy or anything like that, completely within reason and rights, except for whoever is hanging their fucking leg over the railing there. They should really stop. This is really cringe to me. And I apply this standard equally. Did you hear that South Korea was announced as North Korea during the opening ceremony? Oh, that's fucking crazy. But I carry this consistently, right? Like, I don't think any regime that is currently ruining people's lives and should be allowed to be represented at the Olympics, right? That's committing apartheid and genocide should be allowed at the Olympics. Israel seems to be, at least by the international community standards, committing that, doing those things, just like apartheid South Africa did. I don't think Russia should be allowed to be represented at the Olympics. I don't think that, like, what are other nations that are doing genocides right now? Like Myanmar, I think, did a genocide, if I'm not mistaken. Like, there are plenty of nations that I will equally apply this standard to, but, like, Israel is the one at the front of the line. Like China probably is questionable as to whether it should be allowed to be represented at the Olympics, considering, you know, insane human rights violations against the Uyghur Muslim population. I think there's weirdly, like, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't China like super duper mega secular? And like a lot of religions, like obviously Islam is heavily discriminated against, but aren't there a ton of religions there that are discriminated against? Like generally, isn't China like moving really heavily towards state mandated secularism? I might be wrong. Maybe they're Christian. I don't know. Yeah. So I'm correct about this, right? Yeah. This is unfortunate. It really does seem like Israel kind of gets to slide out of everything because of like its very special position. For one, the fact that it has like this sort of like branding of being like the Jewish nation, the nation for the Jewish people, and as well as being like a safeguard against another Holocaust, right? Like never again with the Holocaust stuff, as well as its extreme usefulness as an ally to several Western nations, being like a military base and sort of front in the Middle East. It's just, they're in such a good position to get away with this kind of shit, and it really does upset me. Yeah, this is live, April JK. But as I've said, this is really all there is to the story so far. Hopefully we see more rulings as to Israel's war crimes and we see more international pressure building on Israel. I hope you guys did enjoy this segment. I feel like it's some good news about a bad thing, right? It's good news about bad news, basically. And so I hope you guys appreciate getting informed. You guys can now readily call Israel an apartheid state that is engaging in a genocide in debates now. And when they ask you, says who, the ICJ and the World Court is what you can reply with. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like. Every thumbs up goes a long way to help the channel, including subs and your comments down below. Keep them up. I really do appreciate it. They've been boosting the channel like crazy lately. And of course, consider supporting me by following my social medias, linked down below in the description, and joining my fan Discord, where I announce all my new uploads, streams, and host events of all kinds. And of course, don't forget, if you want to support me directly and help the channel out financially, you can donate, subscribe, or gift a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me financially through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buying merch to the Streamlabs link down below. But regardless of how you support me, thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.